Hello, everybody, and today I'll be going over the results of the Full Grip Journey Together Gym Leader Challenge 1K tournament that was held recently. So, quick look at the metagame. There were 125 players total, which is a pretty big tournament for GLC standards. It was also a pretty diverse meta, 34 colorless, which is more than 25% of the room, and that's very known that it was going to be heavily colorless due to this colorless hops package that it was getting with Journey Together. Hops Snorlax boosts your Hops Pokemon's damage by 30. Hops Cramorant can do 120 if your opponent has 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, and then the Choice Band can reduce the attack cost of a Hops Pokemon by 1 colorless and make him do 30 more damage. So you can turn your Hops Cramorant into a free 150 damage, and it can just be a really broken package. Other types had decent showings as well: 16 Psychic, 16 Dragon, 14 Grass, 14 Water, 13 Darkness, 6 Metal, 5 Lightning, 4 Fire, and 3 Fighting. So in eighth place, we had Monkey Dory Psychic, piloted by Brooke English. This is a very interesting list. You use Giratina with the Shadow Impact for 2 Psychic and a colorless. You do 130 and you put 4 damage counters on one of your bench Pokemon. So this allows you to use the Monkey Doors Adrena Brain easier, so you don't have to tank a hit. You can put damage counters on your own Pokemon and use Adrena Brain, which once during your turn, if the Monkey Dory has a Dark Energy attached to it, you can move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So it's a heal and it's a damage modifier. And this list, you want to play it so that you can take out things on the bench while also pressuring their active. And it can also function as like a semi-spread deck with the Distortion Door off the Giratina, where once during your turn, if it's in the discard pile, you can put it on your bench. And then if you do, you put 1 damage counter on 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So you can go pseudo spread route. You just play other attackers like the Galarian Articuno, and then you can kind of stall with Wobbuffet. I think that's why this list did very well. The Wobbuffet was able to shut off the Fandor Tom's abilities, which I'll talk about later, but that's a very key piece to getting colorless up and running, and being able to shut that off turn 1 going first with Wobbuffet can just be devastating. And then the Crispin is in here for early game. You can attach a psychic energy to one of your attackers, and then you can get the dark energy in hand, or you can attach the dark energy to the Monkey Dory, get a psychic energy in hand, and accelerate it with the Zatu's Clairvoyant Sense. So you draw cards, you get an energy on the Monkey Dory, and you still have your attachment for a turn. So Crispin's a pretty crazy supporter in here. Seventh place, we had Hydro Pump, piloted by Joseph Novak. New Wailord from Journey Together. Hydro Pump, 10 plus 50 for each water energy attached to it, and it's got 240 HP, so this is a big boy. And if you throw a Luxurious Cape on it, that's 340. And then I thought it was really interesting that Joseph was playing Acerola, so if the Wailord tanks a hit, you can pick it up with Acerola, because Acerola lets you pick up a Pokemon with any damage counters on it, and it all attached cards to it, and you put it back into your hand. So that can be good at denying your opponent prize cards on the Wailord, and it gets all your energy back in your hand. So you can go in with one of your basic attackers like that Kyogre or the Wishy-Washy, and then you can take a KO like that, and then you can rebench the Wailmer and go back in with the Wailord, and you get the Luxurious Cape back. I just thought Acerola was a really cool inclusion for such a tanky Wailord. Sixth place, you had Lightning Spread. This, I think, was a good call for the tournament because Lightning Spread has a good matchup into Colorless, which was seeing a lot of play, because you can target down their little benched Pokemon like Squivit and their evolving support Pokemon, and you can take them out with Terraspark Regieleki, which does 120 to the active and 40 damage to 2 of the bench Pokemon, and then Electivire with the High Voltage Current, which does 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, and then Tapu Koko Flying Flip, 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So you can really spread damage and take multi-prize turns, and you're fine with going a little bit behind. And if you play correctly, you can even deny your opponent the usage of Cramorant by completely skipping the 3 and 4 prize turns by going straight down to 2 prizes. This deck was piloted by Cole Stellato. Fifth place, you had Darkness. This was more like classic Dark, with the Zoroark stand-in, where once during your turn, if it's on the bench, you can move it to the active. And then Mind Jack does 10 plus 30 for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon for a double colorless. Very powerful attack, and if you attach a Float Stone, it's an infinite pivot, which is great because a lot of your dark Pokemon like Guzzlord and Galarian Weezing have 3 or 4 retreat cost, so they can get boss trapped very easily. Speaking of Galarian Weezing with the neutralizing gas, where while it's in the active, your opponent's Pokemon have no abilities except neutralizing gas. Again, you can shut off the Rotom and all the other colorless draw support that it has. You can shut all of that off, and then you can attack it with Severe Poison, slowly take some chip KOs. And then you have Guzzlord, the main guy of the dark deck, with Red Banquet for 2 dark and 2 colorless, which is 120. And then if your opponent's active is knocked out by damage from this attack, you take 1 more prize card. So if you weaken a bunch of your opponent's guys, or even just boss up smaller support Pokemon, you can easily go 2-2-2 and win the game like that. And this list was piloted by Thomas Rowe. So 4th place we had Dragobox, piloted by Spencer Baton. Apologies if I butcher any names. You had Raging Bolt with the Thunderburst Storm for a lightning and a fighting. It does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy attached to it. This is insane. You can Crispin, you can Double Dragon energy, you can just get a bunch of energy on it, and you can keep attaching energy. And this list does play Luxurious Cape, so you can attach Luxurious Cape to make it a 230 HP Pokemon, and then you can take out your opponent's support Pokemon that they're trying to set up and just deny them that the entire game. Reshiram with the Turbo Blaze, where once during your turn, if it's in the active, you can attach a Fire Energy from your hand to one of your Dragon Pokemon. So this is great. It lets you power up your attackers. It lets you get an additional energy on Raging Bolt. Lets you power up the Drampa, Druddigon, the Regidrago, all those guys. You get an extra energy attachment. And then the Kyurem was, I believe, a bit more of a meta call with the Plasma Bane, where if your opponent has any cards in their discard pile that have Colress in the name, the Kyurem can use its tech for 1 colorless. And colorless decks sometimes play Colress's Tenacity, so you can use that to your advantage by waiting for them to play it, and then you drop the Kyurem and take 3 prizes in 1 turn, and that can just be too big of a prize deficit for them to come back by. 3rd place, we have Turbo Dark, piloted by Connor Cockerham, and this was just focusing on go second, take a KO turn 1, KO turn 2, KO turn 3, and then just win the game as quickly as you possibly can, just outpacing your opponent. You have the Alolan Meowth with the Spoil the Fun for no energy. If you go second, it does 60 more damage off base 10, so that's 70 damage. A lot of Evolving Basics have 70 HP, including Fan Rotom, Bidoof, Sobble, Grookey, all the support Pokemon that types want to have up. You can just go Alolan Meowth, Spoil the Fun, KO. So that's your turn 1 going second KO. And then you can Building Spite with the Spiritomb to take a bigger KO later. Anguish Cry does 10 plus 30 for each damage counter on it. So you can go Frozen City, Hustle Belt, do a ton of damage, and then you still have Guzzlord in here to clean up. With Beast Ring, you can potentially get it out multiple times in a game, and taking multiple prizes with the Guzzlord is just insane. So in 2nd place, we had Turbo Colorless, piloted by Trevor Redding. And this was a bit of a more interesting list, playing the Hearsay Pelipper and the Defiant Horn Hops Double, both of which have abilities upon evolution. And then Trevor opted to play cards like Devolution, Incense, and Scoop Up Net to reuse the abilities and potentially fire off multiple Hex Maniacs in a row to lock some decks out, multiple doubles in a row without using your supporter to have multiple bosses orders, and then you could potentially play an Iono along with it. So you can really chain abilities that lets you do multiple things a turn, and then it still played that Hops package, Snorlax, Cramorant, Choice Band, just an insane combo. It's going for consistency with the added bonuses of Hearsay and Defiant Horn. Finally, the deck that won the whole thing was Turbo Colorless, piloted by Ben Morse. This list, straight consistency, It does play both Lost Vacuum and Field Blower, which is something I wanted to point out, as it's double tool removal. And a lot of decks at the event were playing U-turn board as their only pivot option. And if you don't know what U-turn board does, when it gets discarded from play, it goes back to your hand. So if you knock out the Pokemon or if you field blower it off the board, the U-turn board just goes back into the player's hand. But if you lost zone it with Lost Vacuum, it doesn't, and that takes out their only pivot for the whole game. So Ben opted to play Lost Vacuum and Field Blower to take out the tool heavy meta that was U-turn board and Hop's choice band that was going to be very strong into the event. You can go get rid of choice band, force them to find another energy that they maybe don't have in their hand or had to find somewhere else. Again, Fan Rotom is just a really, really good card for colorless. Basically, instant setup if you can get it down. It can find you the entire Chinchino line, Bidoof, Squavit, and then it's also an attacker. Assault Landing does one colorless for 70. And then if there's no stadium, it does nothing. But you just put a stadium in play and you're swinging 70 for one. So it was a colorless mirror, but with the amount of colorless decks in the room and the power of the Hops package from Journey Together, I personally expected colorless to do very well in this event. So thanks for watching. I'll leave some links in the description. I'll leave all the deck lists shown in the video, the official Gym Leader Challenge website, and then a full video of the tournament over on Andrew Mahone's channel, Tricky Gym. That's a very good video to watch if you want to see some GLC gameplay. It's very high level, especially the finals. It was a great finals if you want to go watch it. Thanks for watching.